Well, a lot of Nigerians are no doubt wondering about what's gone on with the 2023 Electricity Act, which had President Bola Tinubu signing last week, even when it's well known that his predecessor, Muhammadu Buhari, assented to a bill, that piece of legislation, 2 months before he left office. In pursuit of clarity on the matter, we're now being joined by Senator Gabriel Suswam, a former governor of Benue State and one-time chairman, Senate Committee on Power. In a season of high-wire politics, we shall also seek his opinion on what's going on with the forthcoming 10th National Assembly. Many thanks for joining us on the program today, sir. If you can hear me.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so before we even...
Thank you very much.
All right, then. Before we talk about the 10th National Assembly, let's just focus on the Electricity Act that has been assented by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, you were the chairman of the Senate Committee on Power when former President Buhari signed it for the first time. Now, can we first off get clarification from you on whether President Tinubu is merely signing an already assented bill, or is the reverse the case?
No, not at all. Let me thank you very much for that question.
If you can go ahead, sir.
Yeah, let me thank you very much for the question. You know that electricity is very important for the development of any country, especially in a developing economy such as ours. And so when President Obasanjo then, around 2004, initiated the process of decoupling the power sector, it was welcomed by all Nigerians, believing that once the power sector is decoupled, there will be efficiency and stability of electricity supply in the country. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be, and so we have continued to experience epileptic power supply in this country. So when we had an opportunity in the National Assembly to amend the Constitution, I, as a member of the Constitution Amendment Committee headed by the then Deputy Senate President Mogege, decided that for us to enhance investment in the power sector and to make it more stable, we have to further decouple it. We have to democratize the generation, transmission, and distribution of power in this country so as to have more people involved. So we amended the provisions that relate to power sector in the 1999 Constitution as it relate to whether it was on the concurrent list or only on the federal government list. And so we moved it to the concurrent list, allowing states and individuals who have the capacity to be involved in power supply. That was what the president, the ex-president, that is President Buhari, signed. He signed the amendment of the Constitution as it relates to the power sector. Now, power sector has been democratized to such an extent that states are now going to be involved, they have free hand to generate, transmit, and possibly distribute power. Individuals who have the capacity can also do so. As a matter of fact, individuals who can generate about 1 megapower of power don't need a license to do that. But that was what President Buhari signed, the amendment of the Constitution. What President Tinubu have signed is the most important part of that. That is to say that the law, the legislation that has been signed, that was passed by the National Assembly and assented to by President Tinubu, set the ground rules for the operations in the power sector. Yes, amendment, yes, but the Constitution cannot carry on everything, details about what should be done in the operations of the power sector. So the by-legislation, which is for the first time in this country, we're having an Electricity Act 2023. I, as the chairman of the Power Committee, initiated that piece of legislation with the Committee on Power, supported by the Senate. Then we also had the House of Reps concurring to what we did. So now it is law. The ground rules as to how the state will operate or be involved, or individuals will be involved in the power sector, are all encapsulated in this piece of legislation. So the two presidents signed different things. One signed the amended constitution to allow state to participate. President Tinubu is signing an act that set the ground rules as to how that will become operational. So they are not the same thing. So Tinubu has signed a very consequential legislation in this country, because you know that with power, the entire economy of this country can be changed, because once you have consistent power supply, you have a situation where there will be more investment in the country, there will be more industries, there will be employment, there will be enhanced GDP in the country. So what Tinubu has done shows that he's focused about where he wants to take Nigeria to. Because once you fix power in this country, the economy of this country will be changed. This issue of unemployment will be a thing of the past. There will be general aggregate economic activities which will enhance the GDP of the country. And so it seems to mean, even though I'm a PDP person, it looks like this is a president who is serious about moving Nigeria forward. But that is a topic for another day. I'm just very excited that I initiated a bill that will impact positively on all Nigerians, and that bill has been ascertained to by a president of this country. So the two bills are different. They are not signing the same thing.
All right. Thank you so much for the clarity. But I have to follow up on what my colleague Sheyiton said. Yes, President Tinubu has now signed the most important component of it, which clarifies what is happening, because some people were a bit confused. I think that it won't be a surprise, given what you have said, and of course, given President Tinubu's antecedents in Lagos when he was a governor, and how he tried to bring in Enron for the private power initiative that Lagos State was interested in at that time. My interest, and which informs this question, is how much of power and incentive do you think that this policy, this bill, this act has now given to states to go all out and bring power to their people? I know that a lot of people will say that this is not the first time that states will be participating in the power game, given what Lagos State, Edo State, and Kaduna State to an extent have done. But this is the time that it looks like all the 36 states are expected to key in. My question to you, sir, is that do you think that all the other states are ready, given the problems in terms of revenue generation? Many states will appear to be insolvent without federal allocation. So do you think that the states will be ready to key in? And how much can a policy do if you do not have the right people to drive it and the right environment that will be open for competitive participation?
Yeah, no state is under any compulsion to start the generation of power. For now, what Nigeria have as the capacity, or rather the power installed, is about between 12 to 13,000 megawatts of power. With the signing of this consequential Electricity Act for Nigeria, which allows state participation and individuals, what this means is that a state can generate power, transmit, and distribute. That is a very intensive capital expenditure outlay. So it is not every state that will have the capacity to do that. The states that would decide to partner or bring in investors, they will set their own ground rules in their various states and say, look, either I'm going to engage in a captive power generation. Captive power generation entails that you can generate power and distribute it within a certain area. State might decide that I'll generate my own power. Maybe I generate like 40 megawatts of power and distribute only within my state. That is allowed in the bill. So once we do that, the issue of every person being on the national grid might not necessarily hold again. So, but like I said, it needs a lot of capital. So you have very few states who I believe that can start. Lagos, for instance, seems to be very prepared. Akwa Ibom, for instance, is well prepared. And I can see that Rivers had started it. Rivers can also continue from where they started. Kaduna, I'm told, have some legislation that are already in place for them to activate what now has been passed. So you have a few states that will have the capacity to, on their own, start that, for instance, like Lagos. But I don't think that it is compulsory that every state might start to generate power. But every state can start because, for instance, in the north, they can start with renewable energy using solar as a source of energy. Because I went to Morocco and I observed that Morocco, the biggest power plant you have in Morocco, about 554 megawatts. The source of power is solar. So states in the far north like Sokoto, Jigawa, Borno can just start their own generation of power. What it does is that it decentralizes power generation, transmission and distribution, which will help. And that is, if we go to China or India, for instance, that is what they have done. Every person is not on the national grid, but China have almost 100 access to power. For us to be able to achieve 70%, we must allow people to generate power and transmit at their own level, which is what the bill has allowed in what President Tinubu have signed. And what the federal government will now be doing, principally, under the Ministry of Power, will be policy and strategic planning. And so the president needs someone who understands the nuances within the power sector to be able to set up the strategic plan for states and individuals who have the capacity to key in so that Nigeria can now begin to generate enough power for people to access that. We have one of the lowest accessibility to power in the world. And with this act signing law, allowing participation, democratizing power generation, I believe that sooner than later, we will now be ranked among the highest countries who have access to electricity. So this is a good legislation. This is something that will change the dynamics in the power sector and brings in power stability, accessibility, and of course, enhance the economic development of our country.
Thank you so much for that. Now, we're looking at this new bill that seeks to promote private sector investments in the Nigerian power sector and, of course, demonopolize the nation's electricity generation, transmission, and distribution at the national level. Now, are there any safeguards or regulatory frameworks contained in this bill to prevent a potential abuse of market power or anti-competitive practices by private sector entities that may emerge when we're looking at demonopolized power sector?
Yeah, of course, those there are provisions in the bill that sanctions unhealthy competition and people who want to misbehave. Like I said, individuals are allowed to generate about 1 megawatts without licensing. But anything that you want to do beyond that, you must be licensed. And what this bill has also done is that state can set their own regulatory authorities. Those authorities will be responsible to oversight and oversee how power is generated, how power is transmitted and distributed at the various states. But you also have NEC, the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, which is the body that is saddled with the entire responsibility of making sure that there are no unhealthy development within the power sector. So there are very copious provisions provided in the bill that sanction such act from either corporate bodies or individuals or even state. And so measures have been taken to guard against all of what you've asked.
All right. I mean, one of the things that the ruling party, APC, at the moment, particularly when they came into power in 2015, one of the things that they used to say in condemning the 16 years of the PDP was to refer to the $16 billion wasted on power. And I'm sure, and I know that you also alluded to the fact that yes, former President Obasanjo, tried to unbundle the sector, which led to the 2005 Electricity Act, which has now been improved upon. When we look back at the waste and the corruption that dogged the $16 billion of the Obasanjo, Yaradua, and to some extent, Goodluck Jonathan's era. Do you think that that is something that can be revisited by way of bringing people to account, not just having a policy that improves on what they have done? That's one. And then two, in mentioning that, saying that this is what you would like the power ministry to do in harvesting the low-hanging fruits that this bill presents. Will you rather that the president oversees directly the power minister under this administration, that's talking about President Tinubu, or will you think that he should get an expert as a minister who can get the job done?
Well, let me take the first part of your question. I don't want to politicize the issue of electricity. Yes, a huge amount of money was expended by President Obasanjo and subsequently Yaradua and Goodluck. But you see that there were a lot of milestones that were achieved. Obasanjo moved Nigeria's total power capacity from about 3,000 to 4,000 to the capacity that we now have, which is about 12,000 to 13,000 megawatts of capacity, by building about 10 thermal power plants. Those thermal plants were built with huge amount of money. Power, the business of power generation, transmission, is a very expensive business. And so to build thermal power plants are plants that use gas as source of energy. We had hydropower plants that were old. And so the easiest way to quickly add to the installed capacity of this country was to build thermal power plants. After all, we ranked among the first 5 in terms of gas that we have in this country. So there's no basis for which we will not use that as a source of energy. So he built that. That was a lot of money. I wouldn't say that at some level this amount of money was not mismanaged. But it's not totally correct to say that the entire money was embezzled. There are things to show under the NIPP, Nigeria Integrated Power Plant, which is warehoused by Nigeria Delta Power Holding Company of Nigeria, where you have these 10 power. Some of them have been slated for privatization. Some have actually been privatized during the privatization process. And so, yes, there's a need to look into what happened. If we spend that huge amount of money, one would have expected that by now, at least, we wouldn't have been going through what we are going through in terms of power supply in this country. But to say that nothing was achieved, that is not correct. A lot was achieved. Nigeria, before Obasanjo, was generating around 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts only. Now we have the capacity to generate about 12,000. If only we can evacuate that power, wheel it, and distribute it, this country will not have the issue of epileptic power supply. But unfortunately, there are a lot of problems within the power sector. And that takes me to your second question. If the president wants to prioritize what he needs to do, he must prioritize power. Power must be his first priority, second priority, and third priority. For him to do that, he needs people who understand the sector. He needs people who will appreciate what they need to do to be able to move Nigeria out of the doldrum as far as power supply is concerned. And it's not just appointing the minister. The president will be too occupied with a whole lot of things for him to say that he will be minister of power. He can just get somebody who understands, like I said initially, the nuances in the power sector, and will be able to, who will be able to be up and doing and relate very closely with him, because I was very excited when in the acceptance speech he mentioned power as one of his priority. That is the focus that the president needs. And like I said, once you fix power in this country, you fix the economy. Because a lot of industry, as you know, have moved to Ghana. And that is an irony. Ghana gets its own gas supply from Nigeria. The gas pipeline that supply gas to Papalanto is the same gas pipeline that take power to Ghana. Ghana have more stability of power than us. Is that not an irony? It's funny. So a president who knows what he wants to do, and also the new electricity bill have stipulated how Nigeria can engage in transborder power arrangement. That I think the president can take advantage of and make sure that he has that ministry properly manned by somebody who understands what is going on in the power sector. He's not just giving it to the boys, but he's giving it to somebody who have been a player in the power sector, who knows the route, will be able to do that. The president is the overall boss, so he cannot say that he's going to take charge of a ministry by himself. He just needs committed hands to help him. And those committed hands could be some experts, some bureaucrats, some politicians. There are a lot of politicians who understand the power sector very well, who can help him. And power, electricity supply has to do with a lot of politics around the country too. So you need also somebody who is not just a bureaucrat or who is an expert in power, but somebody who understands the politics of power as well. And so I think the president have a lot of those people around him, and I believe that he will be able to refocus and give power a trajectory that can bring development to the country.
All right, sorry. All right, sir. Let me quickly do a follow-up on that. I like the fact that you say that the president is interested in power, but as you know, he's also very much interested in what is going on in the oil sector, which is why he has removed subsidy, which is a big deal because he thinks that Nigeria is losing so much in that aspect. Do you think that a new government or a new president like we have now in Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu can focus essentially on two volatile areas, oil and gas on the one hand, and then power? That's one. A corollary to that will be, how do you think that the entrenched hands, cabals in the power sector who provide alternative energy in generators and generating cells will allow this policy to work? Do you think that this president that we have now will be able to fight the cabals of the oil and petrol on the one hand, and then the cabal in the power sector at the same time?
Well, you know, you invited me to discuss power supply in this country. I think the issue of subsidy will be on another day. But let me say this quickly, that it takes guts and determination and focus for any president to quickly, on the day of inauguration, announce removal of subsidy in this country. Because that has reverberated with a whole lot, virtually every person in this country. So I believe that the president, to me, as an opposition person, seems to be a focused person. We're not talking politics, we're talking about development of the country. Yeah, he removed subsidy. My fear is that it's taking too long for them to put whatever arrangement on the table. I thought that they would have thought through it and said, look, I'll remove subsidy. There's going to be increased transportation. Increased transportation, there's going to be inflation. Inflation in this country was already high. It was about 21, 23. Inflation now in this country, without fear of contradiction, is more than 60%. Because you have items that you used to buy for 1,000. You go there now, they're about 3,000, 4,000. And so I think that they need to put in palliative that will mitigate the sufferings of Nigerians quickly, very quickly. There's so much delay as far as that issue is concerned, because what is happening in the market now is terrible. That is one. That is on the subsidy side. I won't go deeper than that. If I was here to discuss subsidy, I would have taken it further than that. Let's come back to the issue of power as it relates to gas, and whether the cabal who provide like generators and all of that will allow it. Of course, he has shown that he's committed and determined. Otherwise, he wouldn't have removed subsidy. Now, he mentioned the focus on power and that he will make sure that the power sector is refocused, which means he's ready to face the so-called cabal that exists within the power sector. And I believe that once there is stability of power supply in this country, whatever decision he takes, Nigerians will be behind him, irrespective of whoever is involved. It is for him to maintain a focus and a determination that, look, I'm going to give Nigerians power. I'm going to bring back the industries that have existed in this country. If we go to Lagos, I schooled in Unilag, so I know the industries in Lagos. Most of them have moved to Ghana and other neighboring countries. If we go to Kaduna, Kaduna is a dead city. It was an industrialized city. It's dead because of lack of consistent power supply and the expenses that are associated with cost of production once you don't have consistent power supply. So if President Tinubu decide that he will give Nigerian consistent power supply, who are the cabals? Nigerians will follow him. But let us not play politics with it. I hope he will not play politics with it like his predecessor. Because when President Buhari was coming in, all was power, 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 power. They talk about construction of Mambila. They've not even laid a block in Mambila. And he has made some very little achievement as far as power supply is concerned. But the way he was talking about power was as if once he comes in, the whole Nigeria will be littered up. I hope that President Tinubu will not play the same politics, lip service. His predecessor paid a lot of lip service. There was nothing solid on ground. Or rather, there has been nothing solid on ground. But from the way the current president have started, we'll wait and see. One want to believe that he will be serious with power. And because I've seen some of the actions he has taken so far, which indicates or suggests to me that he has the determination and the guts to take on the cabal. If he can take on the cabal and the subsidy, where a lot of money was being taken without people doing anything, I believe that the cabal in the power sector are Lilliputians more than the ones that were in the oil sector. So he seems to me to be somebody who is ready to take on the cabal in whatever sector as far as the interests of the country is concerned.
Okay, so you have said that you will talk about fuel subsidy another day, but I want us to talk about the 10th National Assembly that is coming in on Tuesday. Now, the race for the Senate presidency is looking like it's becoming more challenging as the two main contenders at the time, Governors Godswill Akpabio and Abdulaziz Yari, are at loggerheads over the number of lawmakers loyal to their camps. I just want to know what your take is on the jostle for the leadership position for the Senate presidency.
Well, let me talk about the leadership in the National Assembly, both the Speaker and the Senate President. Good enough, Tinubu has a very capable and able hand, the person of his chief of staff. The chief of staff is somebody that has been in the National Assembly for a long period of time. I was in the National Assembly with him in the House of Representatives. I left, became governor. I came back, he's still there. By the grace of God, he is a reservoir of knowledge as far as National Assembly issues is concerned. So I believe that he will advise the president properly. If the president would ask for my advice, what I would say is that yes, it is important for a president to be interested in the emergence of the leadership of the National Assembly. The reason being that if you have a National Assembly that is not cooperative with the executive, then there will be a lot of issues. But the good news is that those who are running to be leaders, both in the House and in the Senate, are all within the ruling party, are all APC. So it is for the president to say that, look, let me not interfere here in case the person who eventually emerge is not the person that I have anointed. That becomes a problem. There will be frictions, no doubt about that. But then, as president of this country, any person who emerges there will work with you, because people have voted into the National Assembly, maybe on different party platforms, but with a common purpose, that is to work, talk, and represent the hopes, fears, and aspirations of all Nigerians. And so, what is going on in the Senate, for me, is for the president to say, look, gentlemen, I need you to work with me. And I'm told that he met with the senators-elect on Thursday and solicited their own understanding and their support and collaboration with him as he takes office. I believe that he can leave it at that, so that when these gentlemen go in on Tuesday, whoever they elect will work seamlessly with the president. Otherwise, when you have this kind of situation, it might not end up necessarily the way you want it, and that creates a problem. When we came in during the 9th Assembly, at the time of inauguration, it was obvious that the president then wanted Ahmed Lawan. But the president didn't call people and say, look, go and give it to Ahmed Lawan. So Ahmed Lawan and Senator Ndume were running. We're also divided along those lines. The opposition party, most of them stood with Ndume. Some of us in the opposition also stood with Ahmed Lawan. But Ahmed Lawan stepped up. When we went in, Ahmed Lawan emerged as the president of the 9th Assembly. So what is happening now is not new to the incoming 10th Assembly. It's the usual politics that plays out when new members and new senators are elected, and the issue of electing the leader is involved. No president wants to stand back and just say, look, go and vote anybody. President wants to know that this is the person I want to work with. You can't fault that. But then it shouldn't become too obvious that the members will be feeling that, well, they're just giving us a fait accompli. They're now going to be an extension of the executive. as much as people accuse the National Assembly of rubber stamping issues of some of the president, people want to maintain some level of independence so that they can talk freely for and on behalf of the people that they represent. So President Tinubu is right to show interest, but he should be careful how he showed that interest. Otherwise, he will be surprised.
All right, then. Thank you so much, former Governor of Benue State, Senator Gabriel Suswam. Thank you so much for being here on The Morning Show. We appreciate your time and analysis.